Hi guys, Casual Gamer Plays here, and today in Diablo 4 I'd like to show you my Pulverize Druid build for Season 1. I did it as a leveling build and then I stayed for the level 97, and I believe this is almost the ultimate build for it right now. So I will be changing it for some other build later on, but it was pretty fun journey with this build. So let us quickly go and see the gear I recommend you to get so that this build will be complete. So we will start with the helmet, and in here I have Vasily sprayer right here. It's a unique item, and for me it dropped really rarely, so I just got 3 items of this Vasily sprayer during my seasonal journey on Druid. But if you're lucky enough, then the build will benefit massively from this one. If you are unlucky or just starting out, this helmet is not really mandatory, but a nice quality of life improvement for your gameplay. So basically you can change this helmet with any helmet from with defensive or any offensive aspects that you like, and I will show you several of those later on. So next I have Insatiable Fury. It's an ancestral unique item too, and for me those Insatiable Furies and Mad Wolf Glees were really falling from every enemy I got in this game. So basically I had like around 10 of Insatiable Furies of sacred quality, around 10 of them on ancestral quality, and I destroyed them all at the blacksmith, but they drop really often for druid, and that's what I noticed, at least for me, on my seasonal journey. And this one is a nice quality of life improvement because it gives you physical damage or power damage, damage reduction while fortified, and total armor when in Werber form, as well as 3 ranks to Werber skills. And this is pretty massive, especially if you pair it with Vasily's prayer. So our skills, Earth ones, will be also Werber skills, which is pretty nice to have for our auto attack skill. Next I have Temerity right here, but it's still an option and not a mandatory item right here. I just love spamming health potions, that is why I have it in here. And actually the defensive aspects it provides are really low, but I actually love it because of those potion drop rates and healing increase effects. So I use it right now, but if you want to have a more defensive option, and which is much easier to get, as well as it will improve your quality of the game, I recommend you to run with Disobedience in this slot, because the increase in armor will help you survive in higher tier content if you want to push. But I'm not really pushing any nightmare dungeons as of yet, so I really don't need that much armor and survivability. And as you can see in this Disobedience Pants, which I was running previously before I got Temerity, I have ranks to Trample, and I was actually using Trample Landslide for this build, but Trample Landslide didn't really give that much damage, so I decided to switch out that legendary power, and this one I just have in my inventory for the future builds. Next I have just normal ancestral boots with imprinted fortify. On our earth skills will gain 2 ranks, and our earth skills will be Werber skills, so I believe this will benefit massively to our build, as we are using Pulverize, and our Pulverize is going to be an earth skill, so plus 2 ranks is a nice damage increase in here. Next I have another unique ancestral item, and why so? Just because I love playing with ancestral unique items, because every other item you can just handcraft. Of course you can min-max their rolls, you can reroll some of the affixes on those, and if you are pushing for higher tier content, of course it can be really useful. But I don't enjoy using a lot of gold to reroll on some random stats, and that's why I'm using the Butcher's Cleaver, and it's pretty nice to have in here in this build, because on lucky hit, when we critically strike an enemy, we have 100% up to 100% chance to fear and slow them for 4 seconds by 75%. And slow right here is really nice to have, and fear is really interesting to see when the enemies are running away from you, so it's another type of crowd control in which enemies are really helpless against you, and I really enjoy playing the Butcher's Cleaver in my overpowered druid build. And before I got Butcher's Cleaver, I was running with a two-hander, and as you can see it has Pulverize. On a two-hander I recommend Maze because it gives you 90 around 90% overpower damage, and it's pretty useful for Pulverize build. And if you do a two-hander, imprint a two-hander on this legendary power, which is Shockwave, then as you can see you get up to 200% damage for the shockwave that Pulverize creates. It's really massive, so it will like double the damage you are doing from Pulverize. And actually right now I'm running this legendary power on my totem, and I'm still pretty satisfied with the damage output, even though it's 2 times lower than it could be. But as I have already mentioned several times, I don't push the content, I enjoy playing the game, and I enjoy using the legendary powers and unique items that I have and use right now. So next we have right here legendary power of retaliation, and as you can see our core skills deal up to 40% increased damage if you have it on max roll based on an amount of fortify, and we are basically fortified all the time, so this is just a constant increase in damage of your core skills, which is Pulverize. And as you can see I have a Wrathful Heart imprinted in here, and this one gives me a bonus for every 20 kill I make, so it can be vicious, in which I will get 24 attack speed, or I will have the ability to fully restore my primary resource, which is amazing for this build especially, and brutal. Every 17 seconds we will get some barrier, and this one I actually don't like, but still, if we didn't have this barrier we would really use those first 2 abilities, and it's still really worth it in my opinion. So next we have another ring, and in here I have Pulverize Circle of the Ursine Horror. As you can see, the imprinted power Pulverize is now an Earth skill, and that is why we will get another 2 ranks when we use our Pulverize, and if we are fortified then our damage will be increased further. As you can see I have here a Brutal Heart, which gives me 20% of incoming damage reduction, so basically this one is the best in slot for the blue slot right here. I definitely recommend you to use this one, and actually the explosion of 250% and damage is not really that important, but the 20% damage suppression is huge. Next I have a necklace, and in here I have the duration for Grizzly Rage increase, just because I want it to be as long as possible, so that we will get increase in damage for our critical strikes when in Grizzly Rage. And Grizzly Rage is our ultimate skill, so basically we want to be in Grizzly Rage as much as possible. Okay, so let us quickly go to skills and spirit boons. So we will start with spirit boons, and as you can see here, in the first one I selected minus 10% damage reduction from elites. This one is really huge in my opinion for survivability, and I definitely recommend you to pick this one first. Next we have selected plus 5% in critical strike chance, because really depend on critical strikes for this build. That is why I went with this one. And next for the wolf we have extension of our ultimate skill, which is Grizzly Rage by 25%, so that we can stay in Grizzly Rage as much as possible. And the last spirit we have as a snake one, we will get masochistic for the chance to increase and get healed for 3% of our health up to 75% on critical strikes with lucky hits. So unfortunately it's not a constant healing, but still it's better than nothing. And the most important note in the spirit is this one, Calm Before the Storm. So lucky hits with nature magic will have 10% chance, up to 10% chance to reduce cooldown of our ultimate skill by 2 seconds, which is a rage for Grizzly Rage for our druid right here. So we actually bonded with our last spirit so that we could pick up masochistic and Calm Before Storm. Next, let's quickly go to the skill tree. I will quickly increase the screen right here, and as you can see we have 5 out of 5 points in Earth Strike, and 4 of them come from our gear. And so basically I just put 1 point in here. Then I got enhanced Earth Spike for chance to stun enemies, and got the fierce Earth Spike for chance to fortify us for 8% of our base life. Next, if you don't have Vasilis Prayer, you can just pick Maul and go with this route, so you'll get enhanced Maul for the fortification, and then I believe Wild Maul will be the best, so it has a chance to knock down enemies for a little bit. Next I went with the passives right here. Wild Impulses 3 ranks out of 3 for massive damage increase, 1 point in Heart of the Wild to get to the previously mentioned Wild Impulses passive. And next we have 13 ranks in Pulverize, 8 from which we get from our items, as well as plus 2 we will get from the moment we are getting fortified, so it will be plus 15 in this Pulverize skill, and this is our main damage skill in this build. So next we have enhanced Pulverize, so that our Pulverize will overpower enemies every 12 seconds when we are healthy, and we are healthy almost all the time. And then I went with Raging Pulverize, so that enemies overpowered by Pulverize are stunned for 2 seconds, so that we are crowd controlling them and doing more damage to our enemies. Next we have Predatory Instincts and critical strikes against closed enemies increase right here, which is pretty nice. And next I got Iron Fur for damage reduction while in Verber form, and we are always in Verber form because we are using unique armor, which is Insatiable Fury. Next I got 1 point in Earthen Bulwark because it's the best skill for druids in my opinion, hands down. Nothing is really as amazing as this one. Huge CC improvement, so you can break out of CCs, and a straight barrier in here, amazing skill. And also we are getting +4 ranks from our Insatiable Fury, I believe, so this one is a must have in my opinion. Next we have enhanced Earthen Bulwark, so that Earthen Bulwark will make us unstoppable, as I have already mentioned, for the time it's active. And next we have Perceiving Earthen Bulwark, so that it grants 18% life as Fortify for us to increase our damage while fortified. Next key, not the key, but the passive I have is Ancestral Fortitude, so that non-physical resistances increase by 5. It's not really that important, but we need to get to Vigilance, which will grant us plus 15 damage reduction for 6 seconds when using a defensive skill, and we actually have 2 of those. The second one is Debilitating Roar, amazing skill, and as you can see I went with Enhanced Debilitating Roar, and it gives us Fortify 22% for our base life. And next, another improvements in here, I got Innate Debilitating Roar, so that our enemies will be slowed for its duration, so that we are doing more damage to slowed enemies. Okay, if you have any other slows in your skills, or if you have in your gear the earth skills that deal slow damage and slow enemies, then you can actually pick up this Debilitating Roar, and it will heal you for 4% of your maximum life. Okay, so I didn't really pick up any of the companion skills right here, so we can move to the Rust skills. And as you can see in the Rust skill, I got 1 rank in Trample, so this one is an amazing skill too. It knocks enemies back, and they can be stunned if they are hitting the wall after this Trample skill, as well as making you break out of CC. So here you can see I got the Enhanced Trample for increasing damage, and I went with Savage Trample to get 40 Spirit after casting Trample, and this one is really huge because sometimes we really starve on Spirit with this build, and I don't really like using basic skills, so I went with Salvage Trample. But if you are using a legendary power which gives you Spirit on enemies which you crowd controlled, then you may actually choose Natural Trample, so that it will give you more Fortify for your druid. Okay, next I have passives right here, 3 ranks in Questionnaires for increased damage against slowed, stunned, immobilized and knockback enemies. Safeguard in here to increase critical strikes chance, not the critical strike chance, but critical strikes with earth skills will make us fortified for 7%, 3 out of 3 in that passive. And the Stone Guard is 3 out of 3 ranks in here, while fortified over 50%, and we will get plus 12% multiplicative increase in damage for our earth skills. And Pulverize is an earth skill in this build. Next we have Defiance right here, 1 point to increase damage the nature magic deals, 1 point in here to increase damage to vulnerable enemies, and 1 point in Circle of Life to get some percentages of health when we use nature magic, which consumes spirit for 1% it actually heals us, and it pairs well with temerity, so basically it would even be useful to get more points in here if you are using temerity as I do. So next passive we have is defensive posture, and it increases the amount of fortify we gain from all sources by 15%. And the next passive we have is Sig Hide. Whenever we are stunned, immobilized or knocked down, we are fortified by for 13% of our base life in here, which is pretty nice for fortified generation. And the legendary ultimate I got here is Grizzly Rage, because it's just amazing. It will make us unstoppable for 6 seconds. We will gain 45 per second when it's active. 8% is a huge deal in here, so basically this points spent in Grizzly Rage, all 3 points are all important. As for the key passive, I believe the best one in here is Earth and Might, so that lucky hits will refund all your spirit, and this one is really huge. So basically this chance can be increased, this up to 5% chance, it can be increased by critical strikes and damage in stunned, immobilized or knocked back enemies. This one is a huge one for spirit generation, so we want as much lucky hit on our gear as possible. Another possible key passive in here can be Ursan Strength, to gain 20% additional maximum life while in Verber form for 3 seconds after leaving Verber form, so basically you will get 20% additional maximum life all the time because you're using Insatiable Fury. And healthy, if you are healthy, then you will deal plus 30% multiplicative increase in damage. This one could be used while leveling on low levels, but after you get several items with lucky hit chance, I believe Earthen Might is definitely a winner over here. So next let us go to the Paragon board, which you can copy later on. It's not a full 100 Paragon board, but I will show you where to put the rest of the points. Right now I have level 97 Druid, and as you can see I went on the right side to get Prime for more damage. The first glyph is really important, and I recommend you to do exploit in here so that you will get enemies vulnerable, and this is unfortunately the only source of vulnerable damage for this build. Next I went on the left side and got Impel for more damage and some willpower. And the first Paragon board after the starting one for me is Survival Instincts. While in Verber form you will deal 1% increased damage up to 50% for every percent of difference in life percent between us and enemy. And in here I got myself Spearhead for damage to healthy enemies and armor, Grizzly for damage while in Verber form and willpower, Battle Worn Hide for total armor while in Verber form and damage while in Verber form, as well as willpower. Next, as you can see, I got a glyph which is Verber for increasing damage while in Verber form, as well as decreasing damage, so damage reduction while in Verber form, which is constant for us as we are using Insatiable Fury. And the last two nodes in here are Zelos to increase damage to healthy enemies plus 100 armor, and Ursin to increase Verber skill damage as well as overpower damage. So the next one for me, I believe, was this board right here on top. So this was Ancestral Guidance board, and as you can see I rotated it a bit and went with reclamation first because it grants us +2 spirit on kill, and spirit is really a huge problem for druids, especially early on, so this one was the second board for me, and I'm really considering if I should go as first board of our selection for leveling, but still it was second one for me, and I noticed massive gameplay improvements when I got this reclamation rare node right here, as well as some magic ones in here, so up to 4 spirit on kill. This one is huge. Next I went and picked up ancestral guidance, so that after spending 75 spirit we will get plus 30 multiplicative damage for 5 seconds. This one is huge. We are just spamming overpower all the time, so this one is definitely worth picking up. Next I got myself neutral attunement for maximum spirit and life, as well as spiritual power for core skill damage and basic skill damage. And here I have a glyph which is called Dominate to increase overpower damage, and enemy overpowered. If enemy is overpowered, it will take damage from us of increased by 12% multiplicatively for 5 seconds, which is huge. The next rare node I got here is Harmony to increase core skill damage and get some willpower. And next I went with my third board of my choice. This one was Earthen Devastation, so that our Earth skills will deal 30% increase in damage to crowd controlled enemies. This is why we want to crowd control enemies as much as possible. In here I have a rare node which is called Earthen Power to increase critical strike damage from Earth skills, and the glyph right here is Fang and Claw that grants us bonus to magic nodes, and maybe I will pick up this one later on, and this is definitely a road for 100 level, so it will grant us a little bit more willpower and resistances, which is not really that important, but still it grants us critical strike damage with earthen skills, so it's pretty nice. And while in Verber form, close enemies take increased damage from us, which is huge. So basically, next I went and picked up this glyph right here, and the node is called Inner Beast. The glyph is Spirit, increase critical strike damage an enemy takes from us by 2% for 20 seconds, up to 12% multiplicatively. This one is huge. Critical strike damage increase in here. So another rare node I got here is Shapeshifter to increase shapeshifting skill damage and willpower. So the last Paragon board is in Constructing Tendrils right here, and I got myself the Territorial Glyph to increase damage to close enemies and take less damage from close enemies, and that is how my build looks at level 97. So if you want to finish it, you will have another 11 points, I believe, so you will be able to pick up this legendary, not legendary, but rare node, which is called Crushing Earth, to increase damage of your earth skills, as well as critical strike damage to crowd controlled enemies, as well as go up here to the left side to pick up Resolve right here, as well as this magic node right here to increase damage to crowd controlled enemies. This one can be picked up to increase critical strike damage to crowd controlled enemies, and getting oppressed will finish this build. with nice plus 30% damage to crowd controlled enemies and plus 15% critical strike damage to crowd controlled enemies. So this is what I wanted to show you. This build is really fun to play, you just have to spam overpowered all the time. If you have any questions, please ask them in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next guides later. Bye. Subscribe to Casual Gamer Plays channel for exciting gaming content. Be sure to hit the like button and stay tuned for the latest video releases. And I will see you in the next videos later. Bye.